Hail thee well, and welcome all. I'm the Jake of all trades, and this is the second episode of my Avatar Campaign Journal series. Last episode, the players went to Serpent's Pass, and they defeated the Sea Serpent there, allowing refugees from the Siwang Desert to make it to Ba Sing Se. They have received their reward from General Chu, and they have received their next quest hook, which is to investigate reports of Avatar Oshi being seen in a small village called Hunro on the other side of the Earth Kingdom. So that was pretty much the start of the session. I handed my players the map, and I allowed them to begin charting their course to Hunro. And I made it clear that it was going to be a several-day trip at least, maybe like a week and a half at the least. That's like a full speed there. But I was allowing, more time than that for other stuff to happen. Immediately, one of my players wanted to fly towards the Northern Air Temple because it was one of the bold penned positions, locations on the map from the original series. I wanted to make those very distinct, and I'll show a picture wrong side over here, and you'll see what I mean by that. But I also had a lot of other secondary locations that I had written in with pencil, and those were places that weren't from the show, but villages and cities that I had added to fill out the map and make it feel more real and populated. So they were going to fly towards the Northern Air Temple, but I pointed out that it was going to be at least 3 days flight by air bison to get there, in which time they would probably have to camp out in the wilderness, and it's made more sense just to fly towards a closer city, which was more in line with where they needed to go. It was a little bit railroady on my part. I was definitely not anticipating that they would want to fly up northwest like that. But anyway, I convinced them to go more in a westerly direction, and they found a nice little city called Jing city, more of a village for them that they could stop at for the night. And so they flew all day, uneventful, and they made it there around sunset. And they were walking into the village just in time to see Pema, our resident airbender on the team. She quickly recognizes her mother, Isula, who is locked in the stockades in the center of town, and there's a huge mob in front of her, pelting her with stones and refuse and rotten food, and yes, maybe even a cabbage or two, and jeering at her and shouting, and the players are quickly distraught by this, especially since Pema quickly relates, hey, that's my mom in there right now. We need to do something. And so the players go and try to figure out what's going on and try to stop the mob. They quickly draw the ire of the mob instead of ceasing their angry tossing of stuff. They just kind of redirect it at the party. But the guards luckily show up to take Isula back to the guard station, lock her in her cell for the night. And they also announce that she's going to be executed tomorrow night at sunset. And the players quickly ask one of the guards what her crimes are, and they find out that she is being tried for treason. And when they ask what was the treason, what did she do? What treasonous act did she perform? They say that she simply abandoned the Avatar in her time of need. And it's kind of vague, and it seems like the people of the city don't really know what that means. But they feel like her abandoning the Avatar led to Avatar Oshi's death. And in this village, they do believe that Avatar Oshi has passed away. It's not like that in all of the villages, but in some of them, there are these rumors propagating. So the players quickly find out that Isula is to be executed tomorrow night at sunset, which also is 8 o'clock sharp. This village always executes at 8 o'clock sharp. It's just a thing for them. They apparently they have lots of executions, and to kind of keep things going on pace and on schedule. 1 or 2 executions a night. They start them at 8 o'clock. That way everyone has time to finish their jobs and close up shop and eat some dinner and stuff before they all congregate. Because it's kind of like a citywide thing. If you haven't noticed, a lot of the people here are pretty angry people, I guess. I don't know. I didn't intend it for it that way. That's just kind of how it ended up. So now my players are quickly trying to figure out exactly how they can rescue Isula, and I presented them with a few options on how to do that. or I presented them with kind of like one narrow option that I wanted them to follow, and then when they didn't follow that at all, I was at a loss of what to do, and the situation got kind of crazy. But we'll get into that in a bit. First things first, half of my party went up towards the local governor's mansion, because they were told by the city guard, like, hey, if you want to release this person, you'll need to go up to the governor's mansion and get a written release form. There's a word for it, I can't think of it right now. But anyway, they're trying to get a release form for Isula, something to do with this governor. They go up towards his mansion, very, very extravagant, nice mansion, and they find their way inside, and they are quickly discouraged by a very long line of other villagers who are coming to petition this governor for various odds and ends and stuff. And I'm having them like take numbers and stuff, and they're kind of getting discouraged. I had wanted them to try to impress or like to get the secretary who's managing all these people to help them out. You know, like I think there was something about her liking flowers that they were supposed to pick up on, and then try to like get her attention that way. But that didn't happen at all. They were just like, well, this line is impossible. We're out of here. And so they just left, and they went back to the central part of the town where the city guard station was at, and that's where the other two players were at. And they were kind of sizing up the place and talking with the guards a little more, and I think one of them, or maybe two of them even, had actually gotten themselves arrested on misdemeanor charges, just so that they could be taken downstairs into the interrogation room, so that because that's also where all of the jail cells were, and so they were hoping to get down there so that they could get a lay of the land, sort of, and figure out exactly which cell Isula was being held in, and how heavily she was being guarded, and all of that business. Because obviously they'll need to break her out of jail since they can't get the governor's help. It's really funny. I had written this entire story arc for the governor, in which he had he wanted them to go to this nearby village that was under his sort of domain, and he wanted the players to collect taxes for him, because this village was like way behind on their taxes. And it was supposed to be really crazy. They were supposed to be like, I was going to try to dwindle the resources because the villagers didn't have enough money to pay for the taxes, and so the players were going to be like, oh man, these villagers, this governor is calling for blood if he doesn't get this money. We'll just give him some of our money, and that'll fix the problem. And that would have been kind of cool, because then, they would have gotten Isula out of jail. He would have let her go. But then he also sort of would have had the players in his pocket. He would have made that clear. And he's sort of a conniving fellow, and his name is Governor Loka, and he's actually a recurring character, or an NPC from the first campaign. He used to be Lieutenant Loka in the Earth Kingdom military, actually a special branch of the Earth Kingdom military that I will get into later. But he was kind of like a special operative, very intelligent, very conniving, and almost sadistic, but more of like the practical strategic value. Like, he's willing to torture people. Like, the ends always justify the means for this guy. But enough about him. The players didn't even see him, let alone talk to him or anything, so he's not really important. They go back to the jail cell, and they've gotten an idea of what the bottom area looks like. And I'm going to show you some maps. Sorry, wrong side again. I'm going to show you some maps over here where you will see exactly the layout of the station. It was a simple complex. There was a ground floor, and then there was a basement below that. And the basement is where all the jail cells were located, and they were all located around, like wrapping around, as you'll see over here, wrapping around like this sort of common room where the two guards would sit and drink and play cards and keep an eye on things, sort of, But so my players, now they have an idea of what the place looks like, and they've decided that the only way they're going to be able to get Isula out of jail, is to break her out of jail. They asked some of the guards, and the guards are like, hey, you need to talk to the governor. There's going to be probably some pretty steep fees, legal fees involved or some shit. Otherwise, you could like try to find evidence for yourselves. And they were like, okay, how do we find evidence for ourselves? And they're like, oh, well, you go up to the governor's mansion, you get permission to go through the public records and shit. And they're like, oh my god, the governor's mansion again. We can't do that shit. It's going to take too long. She'll be dead by the time we see the governor. The line's too big. So they stick with their jailbreak plan, and now things start getting a little funny and a little crazy. So I had mentioned that two of the players had gotten themselves arrested so that they could get a layout of the bottom of the cells, or the bottom of the jailhouse. And one of them had come back up, and he was busy talking with the rest of the party, but another one was on his way back up when he decided that his best course of action would be to get himself locked up in this jail cell overnight. That would give him the best opportunity to break out Isula. You see, this is Sindal, our firebender, and he's also a bit of a rogue as well. And so the city guard don't know that he's a bender, and he kept it that way so that they wouldn't want to bind his hands or anything. And they don't know anything about him being a thief because he's new in town, and he also wanted it that way because then they wouldn't be looking for his thieves' tools. And so he gets into his jail cell after... Well, he's coming back up the stairs, and he smacks one of the guards in the back of the head, and so they bring him back down for processing again, and this time they're like, no, you're not going to buy your way out of this one, you're in jail for the night, and he's like, that's cool, that's what I wanted. And so they process him again, and they don't find his thieves' tools, and they lock him up in the cell, and they go back to sit at their desk, and meanwhile, he's so he picks his lock and he gets out of his cell easy peasy, and he goes looking around for Isula, sneaking around, avoiding detection. He comes across another person in a cell. There's another, like, a firebender who's got his hands tied up and stuff, and he's like, hey, let me out of here if you're out, like, let me out of here if you're getting out of here. And Sindala's kind of like, I don't know, maybe we'll see. We'll see. I'm kind of doing something right now. And so he hurries along. And the other prisoner doesn't say anything because he's hoping, hey, maybe I'll get out of here. And Sindal quickly finds his way over to Isula's cell, almost at the exact opposite end of the building, if I remember correctly. And he finds Isula on her knees with her head down in front of her like this. I don't know if you could really see that, but and her hands are behind her back, and she's kind of like reverse hogtied. Like her hands are manacled together, and her feet are manacled together, and then her hands and feet, those manacles are like manacled together, or like, bound together. So it's like a four-way knot thing, and it's to prevent her from doing any kind of like bending stuff, because they know she's a powerful waterbender, and they don't want any of that. So I'm sure they probably lost a few people trying to capture her. But anyway, Sindal quickly opens up her lock and sneaks in, and he's like trying to whisper to her to get her attention, and like she doesn't make any signs of life though, any movement or anything, she's just laying there. And so he's like, hey, I'm gonna let you go, I'm gonna let you out of here, all right? And she doesn't do anything, and so he like undoes her locks, and they kind of snap off, and he takes a step or two back, and then she kind of like flexes her hands a bit, kind of gets the feeling back in him. And then she just kind of slowly stands up and then like rushes into the guard room. I think she might have even like smashed through a wall or something. She's pretty crazy. She quickly incapacitates the two guards who were standing watch down there. One of them, I'm pretty sure she like took his head and like smashed it into the side wall from behind, and then the guy who was sitting across, who was facing her, he's like standing up to like do something, and she quickly, she's a waterbender, she pulls the wine from his mug and like freezes it like over his head. And then he's like grasping at his head, trying to free his head so he can breathe. And she jumps across the table and like grabs his head and smashes it into her knee, which shatters the ice, but also knocks him unconscious and leaves him like lying on the table. And meanwhile, upstairs, the rest of the players are now hearing, like, everyone upstairs hears like these dull thuds, and they're like, wait, what was that? And a couple of the guards start moving towards the stairs, like they're gonna go down and investigate. And this is when shit starts going crazy, like really crazy. Isula is racing up the stairs at this point. One of the guards is beginning to come down, and he's just like, hey, wait, you're not supposed to be here. And the rest of the party kind of sees what's happening, and they take their they do what they need to do. They take their actions, and they take some blind shots at these guards, like the guard with his back turned to them. They take a couple shots at him, trying to weaken him up, and Isula comes up the stairs and just like shoulder checks him across the room, essentially, and finishing the job, or knocking him out at the least. And Meanwhile, Sindal is close behind, and he quickly makes his way up the stairs as well, and I'm pretty sure he pulls up like a curtain of fire across like half of the ground level of the guard station. And this prevented any of the guards who were in the back room, the sleeping quarters or the resting quarters, from getting into the main area to join the rest of the fight. I think there might have been about one or other guard, maybe, who was not knocked unconscious, but might have been intimidated out of combat by Fang, the Earthbender. Fang really likes intimidating people, and I'm pretty sure that this is one time that he rolled really well, and the guard was kind of and looked back and saw that there wasn't any reinforcements coming, and kind of was just like, don't kill me, please. Sorry, I didn't mean to curse there. So the party's able to make their escape. And they quickly hop on Popo's back, Popo their air bison, and Isula included, and they all fly their way out of the village. And they fly for a couple miles until they find a nice clearing in the nearby forest where they can set down, far enough away where they don't have to worry. They can relax for a few minutes and get their bearings, and speak with Isula, who has some information that she needs to share with them. Isula tells them a couple things at this point. Isula tells them that yes, Avatar Oshi is dead. And at this point, none of my players actually knew this in-game, except for Tiki the Waterbender. Hers was the only character that was aware of the situation. Being that she was from the Southern Water Tribe, she's well aware of the circumstances of the Earth Kingdom, who has been raiding the Southern Water Tribe villages. Spoiler, yes, it's not barbarians, like I said in the last episode. It is Earth Kingdom soldiers who have been raiding the Southern Water Tribe. And Tiki is aware of that, and she was also aware that Avatar Oshi spent some time down there. Before she was born, of course. This is all, just within the urban, the legends and folktales that are being passed down, the verbal history, oral tradition, however you say it. I'm pretty sure it's like oral history. But anyway, so Tiki knows about this. The rest of the players didn't, though, and now they all know that Avatar Oshi is dead. And so they were told that they were looking for Avatar Oshi in Hunro, and now they don't know who they're looking for. Is it Avatar Oshi? It can't be. We've just got official game knowledge that she's dead, but is she really dead? I don't know. Who is it? Is it the new Avatar, and people just think it's Avatar Oshi? What's going on? And so everyone is kind of curious at this point as to what's going on. And with this knowledge that the Earth Kingdom are the aggressors against the Southern Water Tribe, and that Avatar Oshi is dead, Isula also tells the party that war is imminent. War is on the horizon. The Earth Kingdom has been becoming more and more aggressive and expansive and trying to just meddle in affairs that they don't comprehend. And Isula doesn't even know the full extent of this, but she knows that stuff isn't right because Hosen has told her this. Isula is Pema's mother. Hosen is Pema's father, an airbender who is currently at the Western Air Temple. And Pema is the daughter of both of them, and both of them, Hosen and Isula, they were both in the original Team Avatar back in the first session, the first campaign, the first campaign with Avatar Oshi. So they're in their 30s or 40s right now. But anyway, Isula tells the party that Hosen needs to speak with them about something very urgent concerning the Avatar, actually, and concerning the balance of the spirit world even. And then Isula does something else. Isula notices that Tiki is a waterbender based on her robes and such, and Isula's like, hey, you are a waterbender, if I'm not mistaken. And Tiki's like, yes, I am. And Isula's like, well, it's dangerous to go alone. Here, take this. And Isula hands Tiki, let me try to hold this up right for you, a waterbending scroll. And this is the first official prop that I made for my party for this game. I really like props, and the first, I've shown a few pictures, and those I don't really consider props, they're kind of cool, but they're more aesthetic, atmosphere scene setters to me. A prop is more something physical, something real and tangible that you can hold in your hand, and you're like, wow, that is a real thing. And so I made this pretty early on, and I gave it to Tiki because she was the most passionate about the game from the get-go, it seemed. And so I wanted to make sure that right away, and for all of my players' knowledge, I wanted them to know that I was willing to do a lot of cool stuff for them to make the game cool and interesting. So Isula hands Tiki this waterbending scroll, and this waterbending scroll, it can do some things inside of the game for her character as well. Teach her a new bending feat or a new bending form or something else, something similar along those lines. Maybe give her like a little boost to her bending or something like that. It was kind of loose, and I kind of let her decide what she wanted to do with it. But anyway, at that point, Isula split from the party. Isula said that she needed to make her way north. She needed to go to the Northern Water Tribe, and up there, she was going to try to speak with members of the council, the Elder Council of the Northern Water Tribe, and convince them of the Earth Kingdom's imminent and looming threat that they present to the world, essentially. She's trying to rally support for an allied invasion of the Earth Kingdom. She wants to take Ba Sing Se no Mashu and dismantle the royal family and instill a sort of maybe a new government or someone who's going to be less aggressive and not trying to take people over and do other stuff. But anyway, so she's going north, but she tells the party that hey, once you make it to Hunro and you find out about this business with the Avatar or whatever, continue on your way to the Western Air Temple, because Hosen really needs to speak with you all about some stuff. And the party's like, wow, okay, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff that we don't really know about. And I was hoping that this would be a really cool way to kind of hook them all, something to keep them all interested, and to see what comes next. Because at this point, it was all pretty loose and up in the air, and everything is kind of vague and only hinted at sparingly. And so anyway, that was our second session. And if you guys stay tuned, I'll be sure to post more videos next week, keeping you updated on what happens next. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you soon.